Hi, this is Bruce Buffer, your voice of the Octagon, and you're listening to MMA Mental.
Welcome to this week's MMA Mental podcast, which is sponsored by UK Fightwear. You can follow UK Fightwear on Twitter at UKFW, and our other sponsor is the UFC Live Facebook page. You can check that out and like that on Facebook for latest UFC news and topics. My name is Ray. We've got three great guests lined up for this week's show. But before I let you know who's on this week's show, just give a shout out to our podcast family, other projects we've got going on that are worth checking out for, and also our Facebook pages as well. So check out the MMA podcast, Word on the Street, the MMA Roundtable, which is a collaboration of all the shows. We've got an MMA Mental Roundtable, which is myself, Brooks Bailey from the MMA Addiction, Brad Wharton, who works for Cage Warriors, and UFC middleweight Luke Barnett. And then check out the following Facebook pages: UFC Live, the MMA Addiction, MMAmental.com, and if you're into fantasy MMA, check out UFC Games. Okay, three guests then. We're going to open the show with Kerry Hughes. Kerry's a friend of the show. She's making her pro debut at UCMMA 35 on the 3rd of August, and she's just been signed by Cage Warriors as they look to help women's MMA grow in the UK. Cage Warriors have just announced quite a few female signings, and Kerry was one of them. Guest number 2 is Rainey. He's on a 3-fight win streak in the XFC, and he's set to face Dhiego Lima at XFC 25. He looks to build on his recent run and work towards the welterweight title. The welterweight division in the XFC is looking very, very good at the minute. There's a lot of hype on Luis Santos, so it's certainly one of the more exciting divisions, and it's certainly one to watch. And our third member is Chris Lozano. He's a cast member of the Bellator Fight Master. He talks about his 2 fights so far, living in the house, and why he picked Shamrock as his coach and why it was a good choice. We couldn't talk about things that hadn't aired yet, but he was able to go into great detail about things that we'd seen on TV and maybe some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that's already happened but hasn't been on TV. So that was definitely a good interview, so check it out. I'm now joined by a friend of the show, Women's MMA UK standout Kerry Hughes, just getting ready to make her professional debut. Kerry, thank you for joining us again today.
Thanks so much for having us back. Always nice to chat.
My pleasure. Okay, well I know we've got some pretty big topics to cover. Normally when you come on, we've got one exciting thing to talk about. We've got a couple of really big things to talk about. So let's focus first on your first. You've got a fight a week Saturday. It's going to be your pro debut at UCMMA. You'll be facing LJ Adams at UCMMA 35. How's things gone in preparation for your professional debut?
Yeah, fantastic. The way we train at BKK, we're always trying to keep up with the pros anyway. So, the fight camp hasn't been particularly different. Just, the usual hard work and continuous drilling, and trying to build on the strong foundations that the coach has already put in place. But it's gone really well. No injuries this fight camp. Touch wood. Nothing niggling. It's actually been really, really enjoyable. And obviously, the more you get under your belt, the more you kind of relax into it. So there's no shocks to the system now. I know what's expected, and everyone's pushing you harder continually. But there's no surprise. I'm used to it a bit more now. So it's probably been the most comfortable of my fight camps so far, I think.
Obviously, now that we're a few days out. We're about seven or 8 days out from the fight now. Do you start to slow your training down now? What happens now for the last week of your training camp?
Oh no, not yet. I've still got another few days of real hard work ahead of us. I'll be training tomorrow as per usual. I had strength conditioning this morning, and I've just done a load of wrestling, drilling, sparring, pads. Got my ladies class, and then Saturday I'll do shark tank rounds with the lads. Sunday I'll train as usual. Monday I'll do rounds again. Tuesday I'll probably box, and then I'll start to tail down for the last couple of days after that, and keep it just sort of light cardio if I've got any weight to strip off. But the cut's going quite well, so I don't think that'll be too much of an issue.
What weight are you fighting at, and what weight are you walking around at the moment? I know you should never ask a lady your weight, but this is a little bit different.
It's a catch weight at 63.5. I usually fight at bantam now. I think LJ usually fights at I assume she usually fights at featherweight, and the fact that they've named it as a catchweight, but yeah, and I'm not that far off it, so all good really.
Okay, talk to me a little bit about Shark Tank as well. You talk about the Shark Tank. Explain to us what the Shark Tank is, and when you say some of the boys, tell us who some of the guys are that are in the Shark Tank with you or are pushing you through your paces.
I mean, it changes week by week. Shark Tank's obviously delightful. You know, you go in for your 3-5 minute rounds, but the person who's on you changes every minute and a half, 2 minutes, just so that you've continually got someone fresh coming at you. You know, the more tired you get, you've got more fresh people. It just keeps you in your pace. I mean, over the last few weeks, I've had all sorts of people in there, from Arnold Allen, Dean Simmons, Sean Carter, Jack Mason, Luke Barnett. My last camp, I had people like John Maguire stepping in to help out. I'm really lucky that BKK we do get to train with some of the best people out there. So I've got a really nice variety of long bodies, wrestlers, strikers, grapplers. I'm very, very lucky. Jason Coolidge in there the other day. Loads of variety of technique. So.
Yeah, some of the names you mentioned there are some of the biggest names on the UK scene at the moment. So you can only learn training with people like that, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. And what's nice as well, I find, is that we're not a camp who have some camps are like, oh, that's a wrestling camp, or oh, that's a striking. We're not like everyone has very disparate and quite unique styles, and nobody's forced into a mould. So it's nice because you've got so many different people to spar with and play with, and they really evolve your game because it's one of those camps where everyone's differences are quite appreciated, and so there's a lot of variety going on. It's nice.
What do you know of your opponent? I mean, you're facing LJ Adams. This is obviously going to be a professional debut. So what do you know of your opponent going into this fight?
I think she's 1-1 as a pro. I think I think she's primarily a grappler, wrestler previously, but that doesn't mean that she hasn't picked up as much striking. I mean, the last time I actually saw her fight live was a year ago, and she was primarily a wrestler then, but I was primarily a striker then. My game certainly evolved a hell of a lot in the last year, and I very much assume that hers has as well. You don't get to reach that sort of professional level and look to compete in these kind of competitions without being the sort of person who continually tries to evolve the holes in your game. So, I'm certainly a lot more well-rounded now, and I imagine she is as well. So I'm not really going into it with any sort of preconceptions at all. Just keep training as I do and, work my game plan and, work my sort of strengths and, see how it goes.
Well, I know obviously this is going to be as we said, your professional debut. Does it feel any different from your previous fights? I know you've said in the past you train like the pros. Obviously you fight at a high level anyway. But does this feel different just because it is professional and because it's on the UCMMA as well, which is obviously one of the bigger promotions in that part of the country?
I don't really see that professionals and professional makes that much of a difference, to be honest with you. I know that LJ Adams was an opponent that was previously mentioned as a possible match for me at semi-pro level, so could have very much had the same fight, but just somewhere else. 6 months ago, had that happened, it's not really, from my perspective. I don't really feel it's that much different. Fight at UCMMA is kind of different. I remember the first MMA fight I ever went to watch live was Sean Carter fighting at UCMMA, and I remember looking at it and being like, wow, this is amazing. Like the pyrotechnics are going off. It's a big venue. There's a huge crowd. It's a big show, and so from that perspective, it's really cool because I remember looking at it and thinking, God, if I could ever get here, that'd be awesome. So I'm really, really grateful to David O'Donnell for inviting us to appear on his show. And from my perspective, it's one of the things that ever since I first sort of started looking at MMA, it's one of the things that I thought, wow, one day I'd love to be able to do that. So it's really cool.
Just shows you what you can do if you're willing to put the hard work in. Now that's exciting enough. Anyway, I mean, you're going to making your professional debut, UCMMA, and then we've had even bigger news this week. Do you want to let us know what the other news is this week?
Yeah, well, as you're fully aware, really, from the media, the Cage Warriors have announced a women's division. I know Rosie Sexton, Ian Dean, Joe Calder, people like that have put a lot of work into, looking at a rota of fighters, and I'm lucky enough to have been signed as one of their bantamweight fighters. So after UCMMA, I'll be, they've said it's fine for me to fight the UCMMA fight, but after that I'll be with Cage Warriors for the next 5 fights, which I'm really, really looking forward to. It's amazing to sort of have the hard work recognised in that way, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
It is amazing because you do work hard. There's no doubt about that. But you find with a lot of promotions, especially the kind of stature promotion of Cage Warriors, they want to see what you can do first at that level, at professional level. And of course, you haven't fought professional yet, and yet they've still taken you on. Was this a big surprise? Was this something you knew was coming? How did this all play out?
It was the biggest surprise in the world. I thought Jack was joking when he told me. I don't know sort of the ins and outs of how it's happened or anything else. I'm not sort of privileged to the thinking behind it, but I certainly take it as a huge compliment that they've committed to me for the next 5 fights and committed to showcasing my skills and what I can bring to their promotion. They are a fantastic promotion. They're a really big name. You've got some absolutely awesome fighters fighting on their cards. So the fact that they've taken a chance to, allow me to represent their organisation in that way when they haven't seen me perform at professional level, I take it as a huge compliment, and I am very grateful for the opportunity.
I mean, you talk about being a big promotion. I mean, that's putting it, I think, in kind of an understatement. I mean, they're possibly the biggest promotion in Europe, and I don't think there's many promotions, maybe only really UFC and Bellator, that do more events in a year across the whole world than what Cage Warriors do. I mean, this year, they've had a phenomenal year, so it's such a great promotion to be involved with. And like you say, they're taking on quite a lot of women. They're obviously going to be putting a lot into women's MMA and UK women's MMA. How nice is it for you as a female fighter seeing that women's MMA is getting given such a big push in the UK?
It's fantastic. I mean, it's very positive from my perspective, because not only we're getting more recognition, but it shows that the groundwork that's been laid by people is starting to bear fruit, as it were. You're looking at people have struggled for years to sort of get women's MMA recognised on the same level as men's, and it's steps like this, that help that, and they really do. At the minute, it's a novelty, and there's some women's divisions on the Cage Warriors cards, and for a while the crowds will see that as a new thing and everything else. But hopefully soon, I know I've said it before, it won't be a case of MMA and women's MMA. Women's MMA will be absorbed into the main card, and it will become normal and part of what you expect to see when you go to watch an MMA show. Then that it's really sort of integrated properly. But I'm overwhelmed by how quickly it's developing, and I know that people like I use the same names frequently, but your Julie Kedzie, your Rosie Sexton, your Milos Conan, people like that have worked really, really hard, and they've sort of ground out over the years and developed a reputation for women's MMA that people like myself are really lucky. Our path is a bit easier now, and hopefully, we're sort of setting things in place now so that those people who come along in a few years will have it that bit easier as well, and it'll all integrate nicely.
Yeah, you're right with the names you mentioned. You're right with the names you mentioned. They've really kind of paved a way for everyone to come in, and they've helped women's MMA massively, and obviously Cage Warriors is helping women's MMA massively as well. Now I know you've just signed the deal, and I know you've got a fight coming up in just over a week's time, and we don't like to look too far ahead, but because it is such a big news and you are now going to be with Cage Warriors, any ideas on when you might be making your Cage Warriors debut?
When I'm told to by Jack. I haven't got a clue, no. I mean, I'm not looking to jump straight into it. It's a huge step, and once I've fought in UCMMA, I'm going to want a reasonable period of time to make sure that whatever I go in for, I've got a full fight camp. So, I won't be looking to jump on something a week later or anything. I really don't know. I haven't been given any sort of a date yet, and so it's sort of difficult to say, really.
That's fair enough. I know.
Won't wait too long, though.
No, hopefully we won't be waiting too long. I know I'll be looking forward to seeing you make your Cage Warriors debut. Okay, well, it's been a real pleasure having you back on the show. We certainly look forward to getting you back on again in the near future. Do you want to, before we let you go, do you want to do some shout outs? Let us know, shout out friends, family, any sponsors you've got, and let us know about your Facebook and your Twitter as well.
Yeah, my Twitter's at AFC Angel. Facebook's my name, but there's a hell of a lot of them. Just thank you ever so much to all my sponsors. I'm incredibly lucky to have a fantastic team around me. Dave Bond and Katie Mitchell at Potentia, who do my strength conditioning and my nutrition. UK Sports Training, who are currently very kindly putting me through my personal training qualifications. Steve Biley, the bear man, I couldn't do any of it without him, but I'm also sponsored by MMA Exfit, which is sort of something he's very heavily involved with. You've got E-Protein, who I know I've spoken about before, but I'm really, really lucky to have such a good quality and very on board supplement sponsor, because they do a hell of a lot to help me out. Obviously, Octagonware and British Fighter. British Fighter announced today they've put my walkout T-shirt for UCMMA on general sale as well. So they're obviously making a real investment in me and promoting sort of where I'm going career-wise, so that's really good of them. Thanks very much to everyone who's supported us, and I had so much positive feedback following the announcements about UCMMA and Cage Warriors. Incredibly lucky, and it's really it's really quite heartwarming to see that people are so behind everything with women's MMA. And obviously thanks so much to David O'Donnell for having us on his show coming up, and Rosie Sexton and Ian Dean for putting us forward for this fantastic opportunity with Cage Warriors.
You prove that if you put the hard work in, you can obviously start making waves in this industry.
Yeah, and I think I know I've said this before, but you're a product of your environment. I'm so lucky that not only do I have Jack Mason, who's an amazing head coach. I've got the boxing coaches and the jiu-jitsu coaches and Thai boxing coaches and wrestling coaches at BKK, all specialists. All my fantastic teammates, they're always there. Sean Carter and Arnold Allen, after their Cage Warriors fights a few weeks back, they were in a couple of days later to make sure that I got my first set of rounds. The support like that's really helpful. And I drive up to Tsunami where I can, and the team there as well. There's fantastic names there, fantastic group of people, real great work ethic, and they make you feel so welcome. So thanks ever so much to everyone for looking after me.
Okay, I'm now joined by Ricky the Sniper Rainey. Ricky is 6-1. He will be fighting at the XFC 25 co-main event against MFC fighter Dhiego Lima, who is currently 8-1. Ricky, thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I want to obviously talk to you about the fight. It's going to be a massive fight. But before we do that, I just want to talk to you a little bit about your background. Now, you started fighting professionally back in 2011. What made you want to get into mixed martial arts?
Really, I started when I was younger. I did, excuse me. I did taekwondo when I was younger, and basically it just followed me through that. Did wrestling a little bit and sports, and just as I got out of college, MMA started becoming big, and gave it a try, and turned out pretty good at it.
So when you started training, where were you training, and what kind of which of the areas were you focusing on within mixed martial arts?
Well, when I first started, I was really just playing around with it, but as I got to Renegade Fight System, I started focusing more on boxing, because I already had the kicking and stuff from prior things I did, I guess.
Yeah, because you had the kicking background, didn't you, from, like you say, from your taekwondo and stuff. Okay, so moving forward, you took your first pro fight in 2011. You'd obviously fought amateur before as well. How big of a step up was it for you going from amateur to professional?
I feel like with every fight you learn something new each time. So with those 5 fights I had as an amateur, it really it showed me what I needed to do to be prepared, and I had good management. So I took the right steps to get prepared for the pro circuit.
Now you went 3-0, and then you were picked up by the XFC. Tell me how that came about. How did it work out that the XFC contacted you and arranged for you to fight with their promotion?
I believe they was actually just coming, making their mark around the southeast. So they came up to Charlotte. I think they was on a card, and I guess a few me and 2 other people from the area had got picked up for that fight. So I guess the first fight was really just to see how I fought against a tryout, and then from there we just kept it going.
Now you lost the first fight, but then you're on a 3-fight win streak. Your last fight was at XFC 24, which was only about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and you fought a very tough Reggie Penna. Talk to us a little bit about how that fight played out and how you felt going into that fight.
That fight I felt pretty strong, and I was confident. I had a fight right before that to keep me, on the fighting full goes path. So I felt pretty good going into that, and it was at 85 when I usually fight at 70. So I felt pretty strong, and it paid off for me in the end.
Yeah, it certainly did. And now you've been given another huge opponent, and obviously a great opportunity. You're fighting on the co-main event, and you're facing Dhiego Lima, who we've seen have a lot of success in MFC. We've also seen his brother, of course, have a lot of success in Bellator. What are your thoughts on Dhiego Lima as an opponent?
Actually, I feel like it's a next step. I've done pretty good fighting people. That had decent records. I guess it's still very tough opponents, but he hasn't lost any either, and he's considered one of the top 170s in the area. So I'm looking forward to it. It's another test for myself, and the more I test myself, the more I start to believe, I'm pretty good. So I'm looking forward to it, and his name carries a lot of weight, so I'm very excited.
There's a lot of hype on at the minute as well on the welterweight division in XFC. They've been signing quite a lot of new fighters. We've seen Luis Santos has gone on a good run. How excited is it to be part of that mix? And if you win this fight and you're 4 fights on a 4-fight win streak, how far away are you from fighting for the title?
I don't really know. I haven't really, I haven't really thought about the title. If they want me to fight for it, I'll do it. But I'm just really worried about winning. As long as I'm winning, I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, making my mark. And so, as long as I keep winning, I feel like the opportunities to present themselves. So just one fight at a time, and whatever comes, I'm going to be ready for it.
Now, I know we said you've been on a hell of a run, and when you're out there fighting, of course, it's very much a one-man sport or a one-woman sport. But getting yourself ready, of course, getting prepared, there's a team around you. Who are some of the people that you train with, the coaches, your training partners that help you prepare for your fights?
Well, really, it's like I train for a Renegade Fight Systems, and basically everybody always has fights coming up, so I'm always in there getting them ready and keeping myself up. With teammate, I've got a few teammates. I got one teammate to fight in Bellator as well. But really, it's the coaching and just the tough-nosed teammates that help me to get ready for my fights. I haven't really took much of a break on this one, so I'm not going to be worried about cardio or anything. This is the biggest opportunity, so I'm gonna take hold of it.
Moving forward then, and looking at Dhiego Lima as an opponent, what do you feel are his weaknesses that you can exploit in the fight?
He has a lot of weaknesses. I don't really discuss the game plan in regards to that. What I'm gonna do is just try to expose his weaknesses. If I'm able to succeed in that, then things will come out on top. But I let my coaches study the tape, and I do exactly what they tell me to do to get the victory. So whatever the weaknesses are, we're going to go for them.
Yeah, that was a good answer. I was putting you on the spot a little bit there, but I wanted to ask you, but that was a good answer. I really appreciate you coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. It's going to be a super fight. I'm really looking forward to the fight. Before we let you go, do you want to give you a chance to do any shout-outs? Like I said, friends, family, sponsors, and also let people know about your Facebook and your Twitter.
Okay. If you'd like to check me out on Twitter, it's Ricky Rainey MMA. And if you look me up on Facebook, you can look me up by The Sniper. That's my fan page, Ricky the Sniper Rainey. And I'd like to thank my sponsors. They are Flesh and Blood, Apocalypse MMA, TNT, which is Total Nutrition Technology, Impact Custom Mouth Guards, and of course, thank my coaches, Phil Wills, Michael Allen, and all my Renegade teammates for, pushing me to get to this level. And I look forward to putting on a show for you guys.
Well, it's been a real pleasure today, so thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, we're now joined by Chris Lozano. Chris is a current cast member on Bellator Fight Master. Chris, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. I appreciate you guys having me.
Right, I've been looking forward to having a chat with you. I do want to talk a little bit about the show, but before that, I want to talk a little bit about your background. I mean, it's fair to say you're one of the more experienced fighters on the show. You've fought previously in Bellator, so let's lead up to that. So you started fighting professionally in 2009. What got you into mixed martial arts?
I grew up fighting. You know what I mean? I just grew up a tough kid, man, and that was just something I was good at. So my family and people around me tried to guide me in that direction to give me an outlet to express that. And I fell in love with it. I was in love with like martial arts films and all that stuff. So fighting just was something I enjoyed. Did taekwondo growing up. I wrestled. I did some boxing. And then once I graduated and, athletics was over, wrestling was done with, I wanted to do something. And I knew I love fighting. And, I figured try to make some money doing something I enjoy doing. I had the skill set, so it kind of made sense at the time.
Yeah, I was reading up on you, and I noticed you'd got a little bit of a background with, obviously, your wrestling, taekwondo, mentioned boxing. So after doing that, what was it like adapting to mixed martial arts, especially like the ground element? I know you've done the wrestling, but then mixed in the jiu-jitsu, what was that like?
Well, fighting's a fight, man. So, I tried to learn the ground stuff and all that, and I had picked up a lot of jiu-jitsu, and, I'm very appreciative of MMA for that, because I don't know if I would have ever tried to learn jiu-jitsu if it wasn't for MMA, but fighting's fighting, and everybody has their bread and butter, and it don't matter what you learn, it doesn't matter, all that stuff, man. When you're in a fight, one guy's better at one thing than the other guy, so I just use my stand-up, man, and that's basically, I'm a stand-up fighter. If it goes to the ground, I got the skills to tap, I've tapped people, I've defended taps and all that stuff, but I just try to keep it on the feet, keep it standing. That's what I am. But, if it wasn't for MMA, though, I don't know if I'd have a jiu-jitsu ground game or none of that. And I'm thankful for the ground game I do have, but really the only thing I use it for is just to get back to the feet and try to hurt somebody.
Yeah, you definitely. I can see that in your fighting style. You definitely like to stand and bang. Now, you at the start of the career, you went on a fight. You won 5 fights, beating a UFC veteran, Jason Dent, and then you were called up into Bellator. How did the call come about? What was that about? Talk to us a little bit about that.
The call that I got to come to Bellator. Is that what you asked about?
Yes, sorry, about the call for Bellator. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the call. Man, I just got done beating Jason Dent, and he was a UFC guy, and I beat him pretty decisively. And they were already keeping their eye on me. from what I was being told, and that they were watching me, and so was the UFC at the time. And Bellator made an offer before UFC did, so part of me kind of wanted to wait out and try to wait for the UFC because the pay was much greater in the UFC. The potential that you can make is much greater. But at that time in my life where I was at, when the offers came from Bellator, any money was good money. So I just signed in the line, man, and it went from there. But I remember the call coming, and we kind of already expected it. They wanted to see how I do against a veteran. To see, that was probably the biggest test of my career at that point. So, when I fought as well as I did, that fight was actually up for some Fight of the Year nominations, and it was a pretty great fight. And Jason Dent was a warrior, and I guess when they saw how I was with a warrior, they would like, we want to throw you in there with somebody good and really test you again. And then if you rise to the test again, we'd like to offer you a spot in our tournament. So that's how I got to fight with Yoshiyuki Yoshida, who's a Japanese fighter, UFC veteran, and a judo Olympian. So he was going to be a huge test. But that was my first fight, and ever since then, I've just been having tough fights and loving it, man. I love my career. I've never fought not one can. I've never fought one bum. So that call that I got from Bellator was the beginning of a beautiful career.
Yeah, I was going to mention Yoshida because I remember watching him in the UFC, and he certainly is. He's a tough fighter as well, and you had another impressive win. We move forward a little bit. I mean, you suffered a loss to Lyman Good, and then you come back to Bellator. You beat Brent Weidman, and then you suffered 2 losses and were released. Now, how did the call come about that they called you up and asked you to be part of Bellator Fight Master? Because I think you're probably the only one on the show that's had so much Bellator experience, if I'm right. So how did that call come about?
There's a guy that works for Bellator gave me a call, and he just said that they knew my personality and they knew how I was, and they thought that I'd be good for the show. And the rest was history. An opportunity like that comes along, you don't say no, even though, you got to go away from your family and all your friends and the whole world for however long and live in this house with a bunch of dudes you don't know. Experiences like that in life don't come along too often, so I wanted to try it out and I wanted to give it a go. But yeah, they just called me up and told me they thought I'd be good for it, and the rest is history.
So on the first fight to get into the house, you fought Josh Quayhagen. Did you know much about him, or was he somebody you didn't know much about going into the fight?
No, I didn't know much about Josh. I knew he had fought for Bellator before, but I didn't know much about him. I just knew that he was a tough dude. Bellator was trying to do something different. They weren't trying to have any cans on the show as opposed to the UFC show where they got certain guys they want to get in. They match them up with guys who shouldn't even be there just to kind of push them along, get them onto the show. We all knew from the get-go that we were all going to be fighting somebody who was quality, so I wasn't expecting that. But when I saw Josh, I just knew that it was going to be a fight. I mean, he was athletic, built dude, humble, you know what I mean? And those are the guys that you gotta watch out for, man. The guys that aren't trying to act tough are the toughest ones. So I was prepared for anything. Plus, I had trained my ass off. But Josh is a tough fighter, but he just ran into a very motivated and a very determined me that day.
The other thing that Bellator have been doing differently is with the coaches. They've got 4 coaches, and when you win your fight, you get to question the coaches and pick which coach you go for. Now, the 4 coaches are all very, very impressive. You've got Frank Shamrock, Randy Couture, Greg Jackson, and Joe Warren. What made you pick Frank Shamrock?
I picked Frank because, I don't know, man. Frank has got this vibe about him. Frank Shamrock, he's got a different kind of vibe about him that I like. As most people in the MMA game, you know what I mean, I'm not going to judge people, but personalities, it seems like everybody's very careful. Everyone wants to be politically correct, and that comes from, all fighters have, you've got a foot on your neck because we don't have a union, so basically we got to take whatever pay these big guys, these guys that have the corporations give us. So everyone's afraid to be themselves. They're afraid to piss off the wrong person, because if you piss off the wrong person, you don't get fights. You don't get fights, you don't make any money. So in MMA right now, man, because there's no union, nobody's standing for the fighters. Fighters are all acting like little bitches, and they're scared to be themselves. And what I love about Frank is that he don't give a shit about nothing. You know, he says how it is. You know, he's a family man. He's a good guy, and he gets a bad rep because he's not a sheep. He don't just follow the herd. He doesn't do what everybody else does. You know, he says what he wants to do. He lives his life the way he wants to live it, and that takes nothing away from his discipline or how he approaches martial arts. Because I've never ever had a person more focused and more determined to give me something as far as teaching goes than him ever in my career. You know, I mean, Greg Jackson was a great teacher too, but I got to work one-on-one a lot more with Frank, and you could tell he really, like when it comes to martial arts, he really wants to give you something to make you a better martial artist. Yeah, it doesn't matter what he says on screen, who he's got problems with, what he says about nothing, but when it comes to martial arts and when it comes to the sport, that's when you really get to see his heart and soul, you know, who he really is. And I felt that before I even got to pick, you know, just from being in his presence, man, and I ended up making the right pick because, like I said, I've never had a teacher, coach try harder and be more focused on giving me as much as they could in a short period of time. He could have been Hollywood about it and kind of just gave us enough to get us through, but he was not just giving us fighting, he was giving us philosophy on life, his spiritual philosophy. I mean, just how far he let us in and how deep it got. You know what I mean? I don't think I could have got a richer experience with a different coach. So I'm happy for the pick I made, and the reason why I made the pick is that I just felt like the right thing to do, man. He was my kind of dude.
I noticed that when he was, what they show on the TV, of course, and I'm sure it's censored for what we see, but he was talking to us all, and he was talking about the mental side to the game. How much of the mental side had you done in the past, or was this a new thing for you?
Say that again, I'm sorry. How much of the mental what?
Yeah, sorry. Frank was very much talking about the mental aspect of competing. How much of that have you done in the past, and how much of that, what Frank brought to you, was quite new, dealing with the mental aspect to competing?
Before, I want to say, man, probably my whole life, not just before, but just my whole life, man, I've always had a issue dealing with with the mental part of competing. Like, I was always down to compete, but I always had like a little bit of nervousness. You know, there's always like this little thing that I couldn't control inside of me. And it would always seem like all these guys I looked up to, they were always like confident, they come into the cage, they look scary, they look like killers. And I always struggled with this thing inside of me that was always scared, you know what I mean? And it just never went away every fight until the fight was actually going. But, you know, there's always a little bit of fear. And I've said this to other people, and I've had discussions about it, you know what I mean? But the way that Frank attacked it and the way that he explained it to me, I want to say that changed my complete view, not only on fighting, but just martial arts, period. And there's a lot more to it than I can squeeze into this interview, but basically, just to give you an idea of the mind of Frank Shamrock and the way he approaches fighting, he tells you that in order to be a complete martial artist, you have to leave your ego out of it. You have to be willing to be afraid. You have to be willing to just be completely vulnerable. You know, once you face that, when you're going to fight, once you face the fact that you're completely vulnerable, then the fear dissipates, because now it's not like you're hiding from something or trying to pretend like you're not afraid. Once you recognize it, it'll actually make you stronger. It actually makes you a better fighter, because you realize, you know, how to be 100% in the moment, and fear actually raises natural chemicals in our body that make us faster, stronger, you know, more able to endure pain. So the way he attacked it just put it in such a different light for me that if I would have had him as a teacher at the beginning of my career, who knows how much different of a fighter I'd be. But everything happens for a reason. But I really truly believe that right there kind of gives you an idea of the way he attacks the mental side. It's deeper than just, well, you know, just get in there and just do what you got to do. It's deeper than just, you know, it's deeper than just a coach telling you to block it out. it's a whole nother level and a different level of consciousness that he's got that a lot of other fighters and a lot of the coaches can't offer because they haven't been to where he's been, they haven't been to the level he's been to. So that's the mental approach he has. Just to give you just a piece of it, like that's what we did the whole time was talk about strategy and talk about fighting and not just train, but a lot of it was philosophical. And I could sit here and spend the whole interview giving you what he gave us, but we don't have time for that. So in a nutshell, that gives you an idea of how he thinks.
He's certainly coming off really well from what I've seen in the first few episodes. And I've followed him, followed his career as a fighter as well, and he was such an exciting fighter as well. So okay, we move forward to fight number 2, and you got to pick your opponent, and you picked Brian Travers. What made you pick Brian? Because he was obviously one of the tougher guys that was left for you to choose from.
Yeah, I picked Brian just because he was tough, man, and I felt like if I can't beat one guy in the house, then who can I beat? And I felt like a lot of this show was strategy, so I wanted to send a message for the later round. I knew if I beat him, the momentum I would have going into a later round would be substantial. Because not only have I beat a tough Josh Koenig, but now, and guys were trying to question my cardio, but now they've seen me beat a tough cardio guy. So now they know not only can I beat a guy with skills and a tough guy, but I also don't let me running out of gas a little bit fool you, because like I said, I'm still at this point in the game, my nerves take over, for a little bit. So what they thought was me being out of shape was really just like a nervous thing that happens, but you give me 30 seconds and I'm able to go more around. So I think I picked him basically, it was a strategy. I knew if I could beat a guy that had the kind of cardio that he had, anybody who fought me, I would have a mental edge over them, because not only do they know that I'm a killer that could send you to the hospital, but they know that I can do it for three rounds straight, nonstop, and just get better as the rounds go. So I picked him for a mental strategy. It's kind of like playing poker, man, and you make a bet at a hand that you shouldn't be betting at. You could win it, and if you win it, you make a lot of money on it, but you could lose too. You know what I mean? So I knew picking him, I wasn't bluffing, but I definitely knew that he would be a very tough fight for me. But I also knew that the reward for beating him would be a mental edge over the guys in the house, and it would make people totally ever look at me in a different light. So it was just my way of getting closer to the $100,000.
Yeah, it obviously paid off because you won the fight. It was a tough fight. I mean, you won the first round. Second round, he come back and he used a bit of wrestling and he got the second round. Now going into the third round, the momentum looked like it was with Brian because of how strong he'd done in round 2. So what was different? What did you do differently in round 3 to pull through? And you clearly won the third round.
Yeah, round 3, I just controlled the distance a little bit better. Throughout the fight, he pushed really hard to wear me out against the cage. Guys with low center of gravity, they try to wear guys out, suck the juice out of you. So I let him a couple times in round 2 get too close, and then it costed me. So third round, I just kept the distance, made sure to fire my jab to give him something to think about, and I basically just kind of tried to force myself to dig deeper than he was. Whatever he did, I tried to make sure I answered. Whatever, anything he did, I just try to stay a step ahead. And the round before, I remember he got the takedown because I stayed too close. And in the third round, when he went for the takedown, I had just enough distance to create enough space to give him the struggle. And then I hit him with a wrestling move, which is a switch, and it gave me the position, which I believe was a very important position for the round, which maybe even won me the entire fight. But I just controlled the distance better, and I didn't let him start his takedown from being so close to me.
So we're 4 weeks in, and we've got 4 episodes in. I know we've got to be careful what we talk about because we don't want any spoilers. But up to what we've seen so far, what's it been like living with the other contestants?
What's it been like living with them?
Yeah.
It's been crazy, man. Just imagine leaving everybody that you know and love and being stuck somewhere where you can't watch any television, you can't use your phone, you can't communicate with the outside world, nothing. The only thing you have is you guys. It's 16 of you guys in the house. You've only got 2 bathrooms between all of you. 2 showers between all of you, a small-ass kitchen, you're sleeping on right top of each other, guys are farting, guys are stinking, freaking, some dudes have terrible hygiene, some dudes are just freaking disgusting. I mean, imagine just jail, basically, where except with it has organized fights. If I can compare it to anything, I would say jail with organized fights. But like I said, though, it was an experience, and it's not something that I want to do again. But I'm glad and I'm blessed to have been able to have been a part of this, and it was something I'll remember for the rest of my life. But I'm cool on living with 16 dudes for that long. You know, all that testosterone and all that bad hygiene is just not my style.
Have you been watching the series back on TV?
Have I been watching what?
Have you been watching it when it's been on TV? Have you been watching it back with your family?
Yeah, well, no, I'm always working whenever it's on, but I watch it at work, though.
What do you think to it then so far, watching it rather than being part of it? What do you think to it watching it?
I think that they did an okay job, but I think it could have been way better. I think I was there, so I know about all the footage and all the stuff that they could have had for it. I'm not impressed with the production, but you know, I mean, it's a first-time thing. I think they just kind of want to see how it does, and if it does well, I'm sure it'll get better and better as time goes on. But it's a good show. I'm enjoying it, but I definitely think it could have been better. And I believe it will get better in the future as time goes on.
Well, I'll be watching closely. We're looking forward to watching your progress through the house. I mean, you're down to the last 8 now. Congratulations on making it to the last 8. Sorry, yeah.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. But before we let you go, just want to give you a chance to do any shout-outs. You got any friends, family, sponsors, and let people know about your Facebook and your Twitter as well?
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to thank God for everything. Whatever God is or whatever, you know, whatever that is, I want to thank Him for everything, because without us being creative, we couldn't be here to enjoy all this. Please follow me at CLE_assassin. That's my Twitter handle. Once again, it's CLE_assassin. Follow me. I love tweeting, man. I love just, you know, talking about whatever, getting philosophical, getting serious, getting funny, making fun of people. We do it all on there, and I follow back. Also, I want to thank my sponsors. Thank you to Boss Ruin, MMA Systems, and the H2 trainer. That's been a big help throughout my career. I want to thank Thickest Steve's clothing line. They're an MMA apparel business. You guys check them out. Google those guys. Thick Ass Thieves. Probably the sickest MMA gear I've ever seen. I want to thank Clinch Custom Mouth Guards. These dudes, I needed a mouthpiece last second, and they came through in a big way for my last couple fights, man. They've just been huge people. They do fast work, great work. I want to thank Front Row Bar and Grill for all their help and all their support and everything they've done. I want to thank Shooters on the Water, and you know, I want to thank you guys for having me. I want to thank Bellator for the opportunity, and my friends, family for their support. You know how it goes, man. I'm definitely happy, man. I'm a blessed guy, man. I want to thank everybody.
Well, it's been brilliant having you on the show. Thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely, man. You too. Take care.
Okay, that was this week's show. I hope you enjoyed listening to those interviews. As always, we'll be back again next week with some more guests. Nothing lined up at the moment, but we'll always able to get some great guests on the show. So thank you very much for listening.